The reason that I came along for Taster in the first place was to prove that it wasn't actually possible to scale stuff down to something that I could actually do. And certainly I think I challenged some of Phil's scaling abilities at the beginning. The idea with the scaling is that what you do will build up the muscles, get your body used to ways of moving, so that as you get stronger and fitter, you'll actually be able to move on to doing the real thing. I'm trying to do anything that involved pulling. I just couldn't keep my shoulder there at all, to the point that my version of a pull-up to start with was to just stand there and move my arms like that and try to keep my shoulder in place. And then we moved on to getting a very little band to do the same thing, but with a little tension. Then we moved up to thicker bands, and then I got let loose on these. So you're taking some of your weight, but not a huge amount, and then you make it harder by moving your feet. So you're taking more of it. And I've just been moved up to this. Actually pulling up using your legs, because I still can't hold my body weight. But by moving up to this, it means that my muscles are getting used to the right actions. It's taken 5 months to get there. Some of it was doing stuff in class, but also some of the exercises that you can do, you can just stand and practice very gently at home, because there's no risk of hurting yourself. Probably the funniest one from my point of view, and it was certainly funniest telling other people, was that my version of a sit-up was this. Lie down, tilt your hips, pull in your tummy muscles, count to 10, relax, and that was a sit-up. Gradually, that moved to put your arms behind your head, throw them forwards and see if anything moves, and it didn't. And then gradually things did, until one day we actually came forwards, made it all the way forwards. That was my first ever in my life sit-up, and I'd say that took about 4 months. And then in the last month I've got to the point where I did 100 sit-ups in one of the workouts, so it's amazing. Just because I could do that, we added in the next nasty bit, because that is one of the things I love about Phil and Gaz. As soon as you can do something, they can find something harder. When I came to the Taster, there were people who were actually doing stuff on the floor, and I got stand as close to the wall as you can and just lean in and push back. And then while I was up there, we even got to try to do it with one hand, which was pretty fun. And then I got let loose on the floor. When I started, first time I got moved to the floor, it was a question of push up like that, pull in your tummy muscles, then push your bottom up, and then drop back down again. And the theory is that if you start like that, then it's easier to work your way up to something that's closer to a proper press up, which I've not got to yet. But we're getting there. And one day I'll be able to do it properly. And if you'd asked me 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed that I could ever do it. Whereas now I know I will. I've just not got there yet. For me, it's not just about strength. It's also about being flexible enough, because I've got lots of tight muscles. So to start with, I couldn't actually get a bar over my head, however wide apart I put my arms. So it was just keep pushing it a little bit, until it got to the point that I could. I suddenly found that I could do the warm-up bit perfectly. And then after that, it meant that I got moved on to trying to do overhead squats. I could now hold a bar over my head, but as soon as I started to lean back, I couldn't actually get any further than that, because everything in my back was so tight. You've stretched just over time. And it's still not perfect, but
Bar's too far behind you.
yeah, exactly. I think what makes a huge difference is being in a class that's got such mixed stages that we've got to. So you're seeing what you're doing, you're seeing coach pointing out things that other people need to change as well as what you need to change, and you're seeing guys who really know what they're doing just getting on and doing it, so you can watch them as well. So the whole thing is just helps you to learn. I can't think of anywhere apart from CrossFit where you can get so freaked out that you end up hiding, crying under the table in reception. And first of all, nobody bats an eyelid apart from the odd, "You okay?" as people walk past. And there's no shame about coming back. You can't get that kind of environment usually. So yeah, some of the stuff takes you places you don't want to go, and it took me a week of practicing at home, and it was nothing to do with what my body could and couldn't do. It was what my head couldn't do. And that was actually just being able to put my head on the ground, which would be the very first stage of scaling for doing a headstand, because if you can't put your head on the floor, you're not going to be able to do headstands at all. And we have done it. We're very slowly getting there with making it to a handstand for my 50th. First bit was being able to cope with having my head in the wrong direction. And we've just started doing more or less that, but up the wall, and I can get my feet up to there now, going backwards up the wall. But we're not going to do it for the video because I've also just started doing some other things that really put strain on your calves. One thing I'm learning is, A, listen to coach, and now I'm starting to learn to listen to my body as well.